Should President Trump issue an executive order banning birthright citizenship in the United States? Hey everybody, I'm Chad Hasty, host of the Chad Hasty Show. Chairs weekday mornings, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time on News Talk 95.1 FM in Lubbock and 790 AM KFYO in Lubbock as well. You can follow me on Twitter, by the way, at Chad Hasty Radio. So President Trump, in an interview with Axios, full interview will air, I guess this weekend on HBO, talked about the issue of birthright citizenship and the 14th Amendment. The president talked about how, well, the normal thinking has been that it would take a constitutional amendment or that Congress could go in and fix the issue of birthright citizenship. But the president said, after talking to lawyers, it looks like I can do it myself and issue an executive order. For those who may not be familiar with birthright citizenship, in a nutshell, here's where it is. If someone is in the country illegally and they have a child in the United States, that child, as of right now, is a U.S. citizen. Many have questioned whether or not that is the case, whether or not that should be the case, or whether or not that is a magnet that brings people to the United States because they have a kid. That kid's a U.S. citizen, and it comes with all the perks and benefits and everything else of being a U.S. citizen. Who would not want to have a kid in the United States if your kid could be a U.S. citizen? It would make sense, right? So President Trump apparently is looking at this and floated the idea of issuing an executive order out, which, according to many legal opinions that have already come out, both on the conservative and liberal side, mind you, many say, yeah, you're not going to be able to get away with an executive order on this. But that really doesn't matter. That's not the whole point of this. President Trump knows that if he were to issue an executive order stopping birthright citizenship, it would be challenged in the courts. It would go to the U.S. Supreme Court eventually, and then he would roll the dice and see what the U.S. Supreme Court had to say, one, about birthright citizenship, but also about whether or not a president can go through the process of an executive order. I think that's kind of, that might be one of Trump's end games here on this, is to give it to the courts and make its way to the U.S. Supreme Court. But also, let's not forget about this. We're, days away from a midterm election here in the United States, a midterm election where we're already looking at a caravan making its way to the United States. And Trump voters, conservatives, Republicans out there, are focused on immigration still, and the president can use this issue, can use birthright citizenship to go out campaign. He's got a lot of rallies that are being planned the next few days. He can go out, he can hold rallies and say, Republican voters, if you want to do something about birthright citizenship, if you want to do something about immigration, send Republicans back to Washington. Send me a House full of Republicans. Send the Senate back full of Republicans. Give me help if you want me to fix the immigration issues plaguing the United States. That's kind of the end game here. He's using this as a campaign tool, and I don't blame him. I think that he should use this as a campaign issue, and it should be an issue and a point of debate moving forward. I'm perfectly fine taking a look at birthright citizenship and whether or not it should be that way in the United States. Again, only 30 countries in the world allow birthright citizenship. Only 2 developed nations in the world have birthright citizenship, and that's the U.S. and Canada. That's it. The rest of the world does not have it. 30 countries, mainly in Central and South America, have it. Mexico has birthright citizenship as well, but as Jake Tapper said of CNN, only two nations in the developed world have birthright citizenship. So really the Democrats should be very big fans of ending birthright citizenship, since that's what the Europeans have. They do not have birthright citizenship. So whatever Europe does, usually the Democrats like. So you'd think they'd get behind President Trump on this. The Senator Lindsey Graham, which I love, Senator Lindsey Graham 2.0, has said that he will file a bill that will address this. Senator Ted Cruz is in support of ending birthright citizenship as well. There are a number of Republicans who are in favor of it as well on the congressional side. Listen, folks, we can have a debate over birthright citizenship, but at this point, it doesn't come down to that. What I really want to get to also on this video is that for me, I'm not a fan of President Trump issuing an executive order on it. I mean, he can, but at the end of the day, this is something that needs to be done through Congress. Immigration laws, and I said this while Barack Obama was in office, immigration laws, and this includes birthright citizenship, need to be handled through congressional action. They need to be handled on the legislative branch. If you just govern via executive order, it can be overturned by the next executive, reinstated by the next executive. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. These things need to be done on the legislative branch. And I would be in favor of Congress bringing this up and doing something on the issue. I'm fine with President, if the president feels as though he wants to issue an executive order and make this a campaign issue and make this a point of contention in the House of Representatives and in the U.S. Senate, fine. Let's move the discussion along. Let's move the debate along. And I think that's what the president's doing here. But let's actually have congressional action on this. And if you want congressional action on this, send Republicans back to Congress. Send, elect a House majority of Republicans and elect a Senate majority of Republicans, and let's see if we can't get something done on the major issues of immigration, not only on this issue, but other issues as well, including the wall and border funding. Tune in to the Chad Hasty Show weekday mornings, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 a.m. KFYO.